So I'm going to cut to the chase. In this video, you are going to discover how you can get to $10,000 a month in 2024, and that as quickly as possible. Because every day, every month that you're not making money, signing new customers, that's time that instead you could have been successful, making some cash and enjoying your life. So unless you're truly sick and tired of your current financial situation, and unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves and to do the work, do whatever it takes to finally change your life, then click off this video right now, because it's not going to help you. You need to understand that nowadays, the game has profoundly changed. Just a few decades ago, so not that long ago really, if you came from a low income or even just a middle class family, and your ambition in life, your biggest dream was to become wealthy, to get rich, it was an extremely difficult process, and in the end, you could work extremely hard your entire life, and at the end of the day never be guaranteed to even come close to becoming wealthy. But ever since the arrival of the internet, the way that humanity shops and makes transactions has completely changed. Back then, if you wanted to open up a business, you would have needed to open up factories, so for that you would have needed to buy some land, to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest, and least to say that most people did not have access to that kind of capital. So this means that you would have needed to know the right people, to be within the right inner circles. But again, to be able to have access to those inner circles in the first place, you would have needed to be pretty damn privileged. Back then, for a lot of people, having their own little shop, it was the dream of a lifetime. People would save up their entire lives, work every single day, even on the weekends, 12-hour days, just to feed their family and to one day entertain the hope that they could start a business. But for a lot of people, they took that dream to the grave. Now fast forward a few centuries, and even just a few decades later, the internet started to change the world. It's a very recent thing, but with the recent lockdowns all over the world, even people who did not previously use the internet on a regular basis were forced to adapt and to start using it. What's funny is that they conducted scientific research to figure out how people used social media. Before the pandemic, the people that they surveyed were using social media decently, a few hours a day, and then during the pandemic, their use of the internet and of social media completely skyrocketed, because now people were stuck at home, and that is why social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, even websites like Netflix, they saw a huge growth in the amount of users and the amount of time that people spent on those platforms, while at the same time, most brick and mortar businesses, gyms, hair salons, restaurants, were fighting extremely hard just to not go bankrupt. And the truth is, in the United States alone, over 700,000 small businesses had to shut down their doors because they simply went bankrupt. It's only the businesses who could adapt, change to the new market, that actually were able to survive, but more than that, to thrive. I mean, you've got to realize this one thing right now. Nowadays, some 20-year-old kids are making more money than brain surgeons, and all of that without having an expensive degree, being $300,000 in debt, having studied for 5, 10, sometimes even 15 years, and with no previous work experience. How come that's possible? I mean, do you seriously realize that as we are speaking right now, some girls are making over $150,000 per month with their OnlyFans? That's more than what most lawyers make in the US in a year. And that's without taking into consideration the fact that most lawyers in the US work anywhere from 40 to 66 hours per week, according to the statistics. And again, that's just an average. This means that some lawyers work even more than that. You need to understand that the old way of generating money, of building wealth, it no longer works. That old paradigm is completely outdated. Yet, that is the same paradigm that they keep pushing onto us. When your parents were younger, they were told that if they studied hard in school, if they got a good degree, then a good job, they'd be able to live a decent life. To get a job which provided security, they'd be able to feed their families, go on vacation a few times a year. They could afford a decent quality of life. With a bit of hard work, perseverance, they would be able to qualify for a mortgage and be able to own their home. But nowadays, Gen Z and millennials can't even afford to buy their own home, because the prices of everything, not just real estate, are constantly shooting through the roof. As we speak right now, more and more people in all parts of the world lose access to even basic necessities, like food, water, shelter. While guess what? At the same time, the big massive conglomerates, the corporations, they keep making more profit. Studies have actually found that over 60% of American adults live paycheck to paycheck. So this means that should anything happen in their life, let's say a car that breaks down, or maybe they get sick, they get into a car accident, now they need to pay medical bills, this would put them in a very complex financial situation. I mean, in the ideal scenario, you would want to have 3 to 9 months of paid expenses ahead of time. So should anything happen, like I said, an injury, a car accident, an illness, something that breaks down in your house and that needs immediate repairing, you will know that if this kind of thing happens, you'll be covered, because it's a lot easier to take risks when you have barely anything to lose. Now, if I told you you're going to be over $100,000 in debt, work over 50 hours a week, only get 2 weeks of vacations per year, and pay over 70% taxes, would you say it's a fair deal? Would you accept that deal? Do you think it's fair for the amount of time and effort that you'd be investing? Of course it wouldn't be. Yet, that is the same pact with the devil that millions and even billions of people are forced to make every every single day. That's the sort of life they've been selling you your entire life. They want you to work long hours, exhaust yourself, have no freedom so that they don't have to. I mean, you really need to ask yourself this question. How come some 20-year-old kids are making over $50,000 per month? That's more than what most people around the globe make in a single year. Now, is it because they have decades of work experience? Of course not. That would be impossible. The reason why it's possible to make such a big amount of money, and especially at such a young age, it's thanks to the internet, but more specifically of an online business. If you want to figure out what's the best online business to start as a beginner, I've recorded a free guide in which I'm going to analyze every popular online business model. Together, we'll take a look at the pros, at the cons, and I'm also going to share with you for completely free the 3-step process that you can use to get your first customers starting literally today. I'll leave the link in the description below. Now, when you want to start a business with a traditional career, if you wanted to get to $10,000 a month, to finally reach the level where you start to make 6 figures a year, you would need decades of work experience. Like, it's not gonna happen overnight. You'd need to slowly climb the corporate ladder all of your life. You would need to have fancy degrees from big universities, and those cost a lot of money. This means that for most people, you would have to get at least $100,000 in debt, and that can even go up to $300,000 in debt. So even if you manage to get a good job, which a lot of graduates actually don't, it would take you decades of your life to pay off your debt. So in the meanwhile, are you really making money? No, you're not, because you're in debt. So you are in the red. And then if you do manage to join the top of the top, you become a CEO, a COO, a CFO, then what? You would be working over 12 hours a day. You would also be working on the weekends, taking meetings, replying to work emails, and the same thing is true on vacations. So you would never really get to unwind, to switch off from work. You'd get 2 weeks of vacations per year, and that's basically it. Sure, you could provide for your family. You could drive a nicer car than most people. But really, how much freedom would you have? The reason why I started my own online business, it was to live a life of true freedom and of true abundance. I didn't want to be a slave to some kind of job, and yes, make 6 figures a year, but at what cost? A lot of people overvalue money instead of valuing freedom. I mean, tell me in the comments down below, would you rather make 6 figures a year, but you've got no freedom, no hobbies, you're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, or make half of that amount, so 50K a year, but you can travel whenever you want. You work for yourself, let's say 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you are your own boss. So now that you understand the importance of starting a business to get to $10,000 a month, or even beyond, there's one fundamental question that you need to ask yourself. Should I start an online business or a regular brick and mortar business? Honestly, I believe that we can learn a lot from history, from what happened in the past. It doesn't always predict the future, but the future is a continuation of the past. I highly discourage you from starting a brick and mortar business right now, because with the recent lockdowns, who knows what might happen in the future? We could have a pandemic which is 1,000 times worse. But not even just that. If you want to open up a brick and mortar business, like I said, it could be a gym, a restaurant, a hair salon, you would need to come up with at least hundreds of thousands of dollars in startup capital, and that's for a small town. If it's a big city, let's say a capital, you'd need to spend a few $1,000,000. Most people definitely don't have this kind of money to invest. Now you could say, well, sure, but I could get investors. Well, first, you would need to convince wealthy investors to invest in your project. And trust me, it's a lot easier said than done, because the investors will want to make sure that your project is viable. They're not just going to lend you money and let you do whatever with it. And that's the other downside of having investors. They will directly control how you run the business, what strategies you implement to grow it. And that's why typically a lot of the time, investors are in conflict with the startup founders, because they simply don't share the same vision. Now with an online business, you can get started for less than the price of a Starbucks drink. Now with a brick and mortar business, you would need to have the right connections. For instance, to buy the best equipment, you'd need to know the right people. To be in the best locations, same thing. To get that real estate deal, you'd need to find the right people. And it's complex, it can be extremely difficult to do. With an online business, your network doesn't really matter as much. At least it's not going to be a limiting factor when you're just getting started. With an online business, you can truly start from nothing and become a multi-millionaire in just a few years. I'm not saying everyone can do it, I'm saying it's possible. Now with a brick and mortar business, you will directly be limited when it comes to how many customers you can serve. You can only serve the customers in your local area. And then if your restaurant is full, if your gym is full, what can you do to expand? You'll need to open up another restaurant, another gym in another location. Whereas with an online business, you can serve anyone, anywhere in the world. And if you want to expand, if you were to sell services, all you'd need to do, for instance, is to hire a few more contractors. But that's basically it. You wouldn't need to rent expensive office space, you wouldn't need to fly out and meet clients in person, you wouldn't need to buy equipment, you would have none of those costs. And that's the reason why brick and mortar businesses are a lot harder to scale than online businesses. Now when it comes to making more money, you need to understand that you need to, as much as possible, dissociate your time, so the time that you spend working, with your income. As Warren Buffett puts it, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll always be poor. If you ask most people, how can I make more money? They'll tell you, go work longer hours. And that might work, but only to a certain degree. After all, you can't spend 24 hours a day working. So very quickly you're going to hit hit a ceiling when it comes to how much money you can make. And one of the best ways to dissociate the amount of time that you spend working with how much money you make, it's to hire the right people, to get others to do the work for you. Now, a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs, they'll start their business, print some business cards, and hire people right away. And to look fancy, to make them feel better about themselves, they'll rent an office space. But that is not necessary. At Consulting Fastlane, we show you how you can leverage the skills of other people so that other people can do the work for you. And with the approach that we use, you'll never need to spend money up front. This means that first you find a customer, the customer pays you, and then with a part of that money, you'll pay a cheap but experienced contractor who is going to do the work for your client. So essentially, you're a middleman. Your job is to find a customer, sign them, and then pay the contractor and make sure the work is done right and on time. That way, pretty much anyone can start a business. Because one thing that people say is that, oh, I don't have the skills, so I can't start a business. I don't know how to do paid advertising. I don't know how to do lead generation. I don't know how to do copywriting. But if you use that approach, you leverage the skills of a contractor, you get to benefit from someone else's expertise, they do the work for you, you keep a part of the profits. And so now all that time that you don't have to spend doing the work for your customer, you can reinvest it in the business and keep growing your business. And if you sell high ticket services, which again is exactly what we show you how to do at Consulting Fastlane, you can charge anywhere from $1,500 up to $10,000 per deal. So if you charged, let's say, $2,000 a month for lead generation services, with just 5 customers a month, you would already be making $10,000 per month. I know that on social media, it looks like if you don't have a private jet and 10 supercars, you're a complete loser. But in the real world, making $10,000 a month, it can allow you to do pretty much anything you want. Sure, you won't have the private jet, but you'll never have to worry about money ever again. You can buy nice gifts for the people that you love. You can travel whenever you want, work anywhere in the world, all of that while at the same time growing your income. Wake up at the time that you want to. You won't have to answer to a rude boss who clearly doesn't care about you. So if you want to figure out what's the best online business to start as a beginner, I'll leave the link in the description below. And with that said, I'm waiting for you on the other side.